Alright, so I'm going to review all the Highlander movies, Highlander 1 through 4. I'm omitting The Search for Vengeance and The Source because I want to save those for separate reviews. One which I have to praise being Search for Vengeance, and the other which I have to loathe on being The Source. But I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way, as well as present a theory that I have that could kind of help to at least find some kind of logical ground within the continuity that was attempted to be set up with Highlander. First off, the first movie I'm going to review right now. Of course, as most people know, this came out in 1986. Christopher Lambert, Connor MacLeod, Scottish clansman killed in 16th century, dies, comes back to life. And he learns eventually from Sean Connery's character named Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez that he is in fact immortal. Not only this, but he also has one other immortal in general that he has to deal with, called the Kurgan, who's played by the great Clancy Brown, who played in one of my all-time favorite movies, The Shawshank Redemption. As far as movies go, this is a wholly original concept. That you want a modern-day swashbuckling tale, look no further than this. I'm not really going to waste too much time explaining the rules of Highlander because if you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you already know about it. But if you don't, I'm going to give you a little quick recap. Mortals fight each other till there's only one left. The only way they can die is if they cut off their heads. They can't fight on holy ground. And that's pretty much it. Now, the way that this movie ended was that it was supposed to be a standalone, and that we only have one immortal left, which is Connor MacLeod, and he receives the prize, which is the one thing that all the immortals are fighting for. And there have been very different variations of the prize throughout the movie. I mean, this, besides the second movie and The Source, is the only time that the prize is actually addressed. And what they explain it as in this movie is that it's being at one with all things. So, you know, you kind of like the Jedi. You have the power of the Force, and you can feel all living things around you, and sometimes you can hear other people's thoughts and stuff like that. But that was a pretty cool concept, and it works fine as a standalone movie. The only critique that I have about this, I mean, there are good things in it. The acting's good. The soundtrack, especially done by Queen, is good. The only flaw that I have with this movie is after being introduced to Highlander the series, where they introduced Duncan, and they pinned this off as the continuity. I really wish that they had given a lot of the immortal actors in here the chances to learn to fight better with swords, because they're just hacking and slashing. It's not really a bad thing, but it's just I felt like the series kind of dwarfed this movie a little bit because of that. But aside from that, it's a great movie, and I really recommend you check it out. Now, speaking of continuities, we have three different directions that the continuity breaks off of, and I'm going to go into that shortly. Here's the first one. We had the first movie, and then we have Highlander 2, The Quickening. Let me sum this up as best as I can. It's a terrible story. Now, supposedly, Connor is the only immortal left, and apparently he's not an immortal, he's an alien, as well as Juan Ramirez, who comes back in this. A bunch of other immortals come from another planet try and kill Connor MacLeod because General Katana, who is his primary enemy in this movie, wants him dead. On top of that, we get a half-assed attempt to preach about environmental issues and primarily global warming, because I think this movie came out in 91, 92 maybe, and somehow MacLeod has devised a shield to be extended over the earth, and it's basically put the earth in pitch black darkness, and a lot of folks are getting upset about that. There is no way to say that this is just a bad movie. It's not as bad as what The Source is, but saying that Highlander 2 is better than something else, that's a problem right there. The only good thing in this movie, there are a few funny moments that this movie had. I mean, just like when you're watching characters overact in this movie, it's hilarious. And of course, this movie having a spot on Mystery Science Theater 3000 itself, like when something ends up on that show, you know it's a bad movie. One of those continuity stops with this movie. But the good thing about this is it at least acknowledges that Connor won the prize, and they tried to build on it, but whatever brain fart they had, it didn't. So in order to say, hey, we're sorry for Highlander 2, here came Highlander 3, The Final Dimension, originally titled Highlander the Sorcerer. This is third continuity, being that everything stopped in Highlander 1, and then skipped 2, and then, oh, well, we're going to try and make a new continuity, so we'll fit number 3 in. We have Mario Van Peebles in this, apparently as just one immortal that was able to escape the time of the gathering because he and McLeod fought centuries before and got trapped in a cave-in. And now since he's come out, well, hey, we can go ahead and try and at least make a better movie out of this. But unfortunately, everything about this movie is entirely cliched. Mario Van Peebles basically, comes off as the Kurgan Redux. And his performance sucks in this movie. The only thing I can say in this is that they at least try to carry over a story with it, but they don't do so well. And everything about the other movie is that Connor always has a different love interest. This time we get Deborah Unger in this movie. I think her character is wasted in this dramatically, and I'd like to say she's a good actress, but here she just is. There's really nothing redeemable about this movie. Might give it a once-over with a rental, but aside from that, I really couldn't say anything. Alright, so fuck this movie. Now we come to the fourth movie, which came out in 2000, Highlander Endgame. Now, the third part of the continuity I want to address is, here we have the first movie, the series, and then we have the fourth movie. Now, the fourth movie is kind of funny to me because quite obviously it connects to the series because in the first episode of it, Connor McLeod shows up and Christopher Lambert was playing him. But there's really a lot of things that weren't addressed with this, and one of them being like, what happened to Amanda. They never really did mention her, and I think that would kind of vex people as to who had never watched the show, who is this chick, and confuse them at the same time because they have this other chick who shows up in here and claims to be Duncan's wife from back then. The movie, for the most part, it's okay to me. It's definitely my personal favorite of the sequels. The problems that I have with this movie are... I've only seen this version of it. I've never seen the original theatrical cut. I know it's on the DVD, but I haven't watched it. I've heard some things about it. It's okay. This movie tries to build on that a little bit better by throwing in 12 minutes of extra scenes. Doesn't really do a good job. Now, Christopher Lambert in this movie has been hidden away in a sanctuary for some time, and I've recently begun to have a theory about this, as they don't regard the first two movies being part of the continuity. And my theory is this. It's revealed in this movie that Connor, after his adopted daughter was murdered by his old enemy Jacob Kell, that he went into the sanctuary and that he was strapped down for about 10 years and on drugs. My theory is that all three of the first three movies are Connor having dreams while he's on drugs. Now, the series did acknowledge that the events of the first movie happened, but the way it's told, I could kind of buy it coming off as Connor having a hallucination that he won the prize, and then you have those two sucky-ass movies being number 2 and number 3 following, and, that's just more of him having dreams. Highlander Endgame is good. Like, the story of it is that, there's an old immortal from Connor's past who becomes his enemy because he wants revenge for the death of his adopted father. And I actually prefer Kell in more ways over the Kurgan because, I love the Kurgan, and I think he's probably one of the best villains to come out of the movies. But Kell emerges as better because he's not going to kill him. He just wants to do everything humanly possible to make him suffer, or to make Connor suffer. And I think that's actually a better better that you have a villain that likes to mind fuck with you instead of just coming at you swinging a sword wildly. Duncan, or at least Adrian Paul's performance in this movie is alright. He's, for the most part, he's just kind of there. You know, we also have Joe and Mythos into this to kind of help tie into the series, but I hate that they were kind of chronically underused because this was more about the McLeods than it was them. Anything more I could say? Yeah, this is a pretty good movie. If you're needing something to watch and you want to follow good continuity, watch the first movie, the series, and then the fourth movie, Endgame, and then stop it here. But if you're brave enough to come along for the sequel that followed this, stay tuned with me and I will give you exactly my thoughts on that movie because really, this should have been the last movie. The title was kind of misleading.